Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, WeThePeopleProcessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. WeThePeopleProcessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, WeThePeopleProcessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024.
Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state
She's
categorically?
asking a question.
Mr.
Don't be
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You are
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a
question.
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today and thank you for continuing to network these videos and this information to everyone you know and love. The more people we have educated with the facts, what's really happening, which you only get through the independent media, of which this platform is one of those, the more people we have educated with the facts and the truth, the more people we have empowered. And the more people we have empowered, the sooner we end this reign of terror by the deep state and their puppets. This is what they fear the most, an awakening. And I believe we've taken that turn in a huge manner. You know, the title of today's presentation is The Freedom Convoys Deliver Panic to the Totalitarian Thugs. Yeah. You know, I have been very critical of the medical profession over the past 2 years. I've taken a lot of grief for it, from big medicine, big pharma, from you name the organizations. But medicine and the practice of medicine has devolved over the past 2 years in exponential fashion. And the reason is because of this. One of my kids gave me this: do no harm, but take no bull. You see, do no harm is part of the Hippocratic Oath. It's an oath that all of us take when we become physicians, when we graduate from medical school. Unfortunately, our profession, the medical profession, has lost its way because it's not adhering to the do no harm. Now, I extended that oath through my research and prevention to not just do no harm, but try to prevent harm, which big insurance and big medicine and big pharma, they despise me for doing that. But as from this sign was given to me by one of my children, take no bull. There are too few physicians that have taken no bull, and fortunately have delivered a bunch of bull to the public. I refuse to do that. Taken a lot of grief for my stance, but I'll never change. And looking back on it, the last 2 years, there's nothing I would have done differently. What I do is I provide data, facts, and science, much to the chagrin of the totalitarian thugs. We do so, but I can only do so limited on this channel because of the censorship issues. And the same is true actually on Rumble It's not the nirvana that people paint it out to be, believe me. That's why DaveJanda.com exists, where I can go into depth and provide you unvarnished facts. No censorship. That's why the platform exists. I hope you'll go there. But you see, we've had this positive turning point, not because of doctors that should have stood up and said, wait, there's a problem with this and with this. This is an individual choice, and you need to be comprehensively informed. They haven't done that. Some have, but very few. And there's only a handful of us from around the world, actually, maybe 2 handfuls of us, that have spoken the truth. But who, in mass numbers, has spoken the truth and put freedom on the front burner have been the Canadian truckers and the truckers around the world, in the United States, in New Zealand, in Europe, in Australia. It's the truckers that have done what doctors should have done for the past 2 years and did not. And this is what's caused the turning point in our favor, in freedom's favor, in the world's favor. The truckers. And them holding the totalitarians' feet to the fire of freedom and truth. The Canadian truckers are at the center of this. And you got to give them all the credit in the world. They will not back down when it comes to freedom and liberty and honesty. You know, right down the road, not too far, is the city of Detroit from here. And there is the probably single most important border crossing between the United States and Canada, that being the Ambassador Bridge. It's actually the only privately owned border crossing on this continent. And that Ambassador Bridge came into the forefront of the news. Over a number of years' time, I've had guests from the bridge company on my show, and we've talked about how the governments of the United States and Canada have tried to squeeze and pull that bridge away from private ownership. And now we know why. Because of how this entire situation at the Ambassador Bridge was handled. You see, as the freedom fighters have pushed the issues in Ottawa and across Canada and Australia and New Zealand and now in the United States with these convoys, the heart of the movement was in Ottawa. And a small part of that heart had shifted to the Ambassador Bridge. Michigan is the largest POW camp of all of North America. I've described it that way before, thanks to our incompetent Commandant Klink here in Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. For 2 years, in a totalitarian thug fashion, she has stripped freedoms and liberties and life itself from the populace of our state. After all, she was the one, and her administration was the one who took negative patients or positive patients and put them in negative nursing homes. Thousands of seniors perished. Then she locked down our state. Who could forget when she said, can't go out and cut the grass? Can't go out and buy rug or floor coverings or paint. What? Where's the science there, dear? Where's the data? Where's the science? But oh no. To a totalitarian thug that was drunk with totalitarian power, there isn't anything she wouldn't do. Look at the interview I did with that barber who took her on in one of the courts, Carl Menke. Oh, she hated that. He held her feet to fire. He was the original Canadian trucker. So this came out from Patty McMurray. After 2 years of destroying Michigan economy with tyrannical lockdowns and restrictions, Whitmer tells Canadian leaders, when it comes to this whole thing with this Freedom Convoy and closing that bridge, shut down the trucker protest at that bridge. Yeah. Michigan Governor, Commandant, Gretchen Whitmer is now reaching her iron fist across the U.S. border into Canada as she attempts to force her will on the peaceful Canadian truckers and their supporters. Yeah. Just shut it down. Lock it. She wanted to send businesses from Michigan, tow trucks, into Canada to move the trucks. How does she have jurisdiction as a governor in the United States to something happen on the Canadian side of the border? There's no borders to totalitarian thugs, right? Anything goes. She didn't talk about negotiating, listening to the grievances. No. Now, if there's anybody who should have said, hey, this is a privately owned bridge. We're losing money here. We own the company that owns the bridge. There's no traffic. Come on. Do something about this. Let's go. Come on. Bring those tow trucks in. No. The owner of the bridge company, Matthew Maroon, never said that. The totalitarian thug did. Whitmer. What did Maroon do? Maroon came out and he said, hey, look. What has to happen is government officials need to sit down with the people at the bridge and talk to them. Talk to them. Hear them out. Why are they there? What are the issues? And what can be done to mitigate those issues? And he suggested to, quote, end the protest and repeal the mandate. His words, and recognizing that while the vast majority of truck drivers are vaccinated, there are some who, for many reasons, are choosing not to get vaccinated, but deserve to be respected and allowed to do their jobs and serve our countries with dignity. End quote. Matthew Maroon. He didn't say, throw him away, throw him in jail, lock him up. No. He said, hear him out, listen to him, sit down with them, talk to them, find out, and then do something that mitigates the situation. Meanwhile, CNN, they had an analyst there from Harvard. What did she say? Quote, slash the tires and arrest the drivers, end quote. What a totalitarian thug. Harvard professor and CNN analyst calls for violence against the Freedom Convoy. Harvard professor and CNN analyst and former Obama, hard to believe somebody from the Obama totalitarian thug administration. The former Obama administration Undersecretary of Homeland Security, Juliette Kayyem, has called for violence and vandalism against Freedom Convoy protesters who have amassed on the bridge and connects Detroit, Michigan to Windsor, Ontario. Oh. Then we had, and possibly those words incited this. Can you imagine if this had happened at a BLM event or an Antifa event, right? Imagine this. Man who rammed car into Winnipeg Freedom Convoy protesters is Antifa activist David Zegarak. I wonder if he was inspired by that Harvard professor. One would think maybe she should be held criminally responsible as well for inciting this, huh? No, we're not going to do that. She's from Harvard. Give her a promotion. Yeah. Several freedom protesters were injured by a vehicle that appeared to intentionally ram into a truck and run over at least one protester in Winnipeg. That's a definition of a terrorist act, isn't it? Yeah. It was a brutal attack. Now this, the masked man who ran over the Winnipeg Freedom Convoy protesters, is actually an Antifa activist. Then, we had pictures here in the Detroit area of Canada. Premier, the provincial governor of, or minister of Ontario, he put the RCMP, the Mounties, Dudley Do Right, Nice little hat. He sent snipers out for protesters that had flags and were waving around for freedom by the bridge. And you see these guys in SWAT suits, combat outfits and SWAT teams. And it turns out that the weather was horrible here this past Saturday night. It was like 10 degrees, snow. I think there were like a dozen max people left at the bridge because everybody else went home. A lot of Canadian veterans came out and stood between the police and the protesters. But then the weather got so inclement that many of them went to Ottawa and many of them left. There were like 12 left and 2 pickup trucks. And the SWAT teams moved in for those 2 pickup trucks and 12 people who were waving flags. Police arrest Ambassador Bridge truckers, actually the people with flags, in dawn raid. Meanwhile, thousands then flocked to the demonstration in Ottawa. This from Zero Hedge. Only 2 pickup trucks and less than a dozen protesters actually were blocking the road to the bridge before the police moved in. Meanwhile, Ontario declares a state of emergency. Oh yeah, when all else fails, the thugs are going to call an emergency. Bring in the booted people to correct something, right? Quote, eyes of the world are on us, end quote. Ontario declared a state of emergency to empower law enforcement to end the blockade. They will be punished if they don't leave. Protesters will be slapped. This is Ontario Premier Doug Ford. He said protesters will be slapped with hefty fines amounting to $78,000 in jail time. So what happened in that wonderful summer of 2020 when BLM and Antifa were torching cities and looting and killing and destroying and shutting down and destroying businesses? Not a thing. Oh, let's march with them. Whitmer, arm in arm, no masks. Whoa, arm in arm. Let's march. Let's talk about how great this is. Yeah. Which brings me to Truck Fudo. Yeah. Good old Justin or whatever his name is. Remember, who could forget? Remember when Castro died and Trudeau gave this just a heartfelt eulogy for Fidel Castro. Yeah, remember that one? Oh yeah. And remember, he is a graduate of Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum's Young Leaders Group. Let's just call him the Young Scum Puppet Group. Right? So what did Trudeau do? Yeah. He's not going to be outdone by Commandant Klink in Michigan with their totalitarian thug maneuvers, right? Or that Harvard professor, slash their tires and, right? Trudeau to unleash never-before-used Emergency Powers Act. Yeah, just kind of like they tried it out in Ontario, that province, that near, encompasses Windsor. We try it out there. Let's see how it works. Then maybe we'll do it across the whole country. Trudeau unleashes never-before-used Emergency Powers Act to counter protests as U.S.-Canada bridge reopens. Seems like he didn't take the advice of Matthew Maroon, the owner of the bridge, and said, will you sit down with these people and talk to them, listen to their grievances, hear them out, and work something out to alleviate this issue? No, we're not going to talk to anybody. We're not going to hear anybody. We're going to take that iron hand and we're going to smash him, just like that Harvard professor said, and like that totalitarian thug incompetent commandant in Michigan, Whitmer, said. Yeah, that'll show him. Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, bought off lamestream fake media, has learned that Prime Minister Trudeau, quote, will inform the provinces he will invoke the Emergencies Act to give the government extra powers to deal with the protests across the country. But in a meeting with the Liberal caucus, the Prime Minister said there were no plans to deploy the military, end quote. Could that be because the military probably wouldn't deploy? Yeah. In Canada, I did my fellowship in Canada. Wonderful people. In 1982, I believe it was, they put into effect something called the Charter of Freedom and Rights. And it's essentially equivalent to the United States Bill of Rights. That's the way I see it. And it guarantees the Canadian population the right and the right to protest. So how exactly does this fit in with that charter, Justin? Yeah? But I'll tell you, that guy he eulogized, Fidel Castro, I bet you he's down burning in hell right now going, ha ha, attaboy, attaboy, yeah, that's good, that's good. As CBC concludes, the law gives the federal Canadian government carte blanche to cope with a crisis, including the ability to enact emergency powers that allow it to prohibit travel within a specified area or remove personal property while imposing fines or jail time on people contravening new orders. This is basically the ability to unleash selective martial law on Canadians. Okay, how do you think this is going to turn out? You think this is going to turn out well? As opposed to what someone who had a lot and lost a lot, Matthew Maroon from The Bridge, who said, sit down and talk to these folks. Hear them out. Listen to what the issues are. And then try to work something out. Oh, we're not going to do that. He was hiding, giving excuses. Even though I'm, double this and don't actually triple this, and nobody's going to get sick if they get this. He ends up getting it. That was one of his excuses. I got to go into hiding. And now he's doing this. So, I believe, well, maybe he took these lessons from that Klaus Schwab young leaders group about being a good totalitarian thug. But this is going to backfire. Huge. Huge. Whoever is advising him, well, bad advice. Because what's going to happen is that freedom has just gotten a huge tailwind behind it. Freedom will prevail. The truckers will prevail. And the future will be far brighter. If you listen to the bought-off lamestream fake media, they're going to tell you, it's over, done, bye, everybody go. But that's all propaganda. They've been feeding you that garbage for decades. It's time to stop listening to the bought-off lamestream fake media and tune in to the independent media, one of which platform is this one. We are there for you 24/7. I'm going to tell you, and I have been telling you for years, what you need to know. Might not be what you want to hear, but I'm going to tell you what you need to know. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the great. And what is great are the Canadian truckers and all the truckers around the world that stepped up and filled the void that the medical profession left behind. Sad but true. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. We're at davejanda.com 24/7 for you. Thanks for your time today.